Hey guys! Hello, everybody. I apologize for being a little tardy, but I had to take some time out to speak with my guests. I hope you guys don't mind that. But without further ado, guys, I am going to bring up the most awesomeness, if that's a word, if that's a word, the most awesomeness attorney, federal criminal attorney, defense attorney. Timoney Adams. Yay!
Hi. Hi, it's so good to see
Hi.
you.
Great to see you too. Because I was telling everybody how awesome you was, and I was just bragging on you
Oh, thank
because
you.
when I sat next to you during the trial, because I don't know if you remember, you were telling me some stuff. I was like a sponge, just taking in everything that you was telling me, and I was like so like in awe. So you're my shiro. I
Thank you.
my shiro. Well, Timoney, without further ado, I have some questions for you.
Oh, go
First,
ahead.
first, I want to know, who is Timoney Adams? Who is she?
Okay, so I always describe myself as like a complete unicorn.
Mhm.
Because as far as what I do for a living, doing federal criminal defense, they also call it white collar crimes. Um, Oftentimes, I'm the only Black lawyer who's been retained or hired in the courtroom.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm definitely almost always the only like Black female lawyer. So
Wow.
as far as that, that's what it is. Um, Other than that, I'm just the girl who likes crazy sneakers. Like I love sneakers.
It's okay. So tell me, what got you into this field?
Okay, so let me tell you, and I hate, how people say, oh, when I was a kid, I always wanted to. No, I'm not even going to lie. All
Mhm.
right, so before I was a lawyer, I did accounting work for like big law firms.
Mhm.
And so I was working for this big firm in Houston, and they had all these awards for like best workplace, blah, blah, blah. But they got these awards for benefits that they gave the lawyers, not that they gave the staff.
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? I'm supposed to go. Like, and so my mind's because technically it was like my grandparents would be like, it was a good job. You know what I mean? So I was like,
Mhm.
I'm supposed to go. And my mindset was like, why would I work for the lawyer when I can be the lawyer? Because I
Mhm.
worked in accounting. So I knew how much they paid the lawyer and I knew how much they billed the client.
Mhm.
Big difference.
Mhm.
And that was it. Like, my job was downtown Houston.
Mhm.
I knew what school I wanted to go to. It was also downtown Houston. So I did my tour, got my books, all of that, like on my lunch break from work. And so when I got accepted, like I clocked that on Friday and orientation was Monday.
Wow. Wow. Were you a good student?
In the beginning, no, because I'm a math girl. So two plus
Mhm.
two is four. That's what it is. Ain't no arguing
Mhm.
about that. But in law school, they teach you all these other things. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why, if the law says this, why are we arguing something different? Because I have
Mhm.
a straight, like, two plus two mindset. So
Mhm.
it took a minute, like, my first semester, pretty much. But yeah, after that, I was great. And I actually
Mhm.
graduated a semester early.
So how long have you been an attorney?
This year made 9 years.
Well, congratulations on your 9 years.
Thank
And how
you.
many cases have you won?
You know what? I don't know because I don't count. Like
Mhm.
in the beginning, it was cool. Like let me like post about it and talk about it. But like now, it's just like, oh, child, I'm on to the next. Like let me break. Like I literally broke down a trial binder like 30 minutes ago with my assistant from a case we had a couple weeks ago. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think I only keep track of like my federal cases, my state cases. I don't really care. They're really easy. I have like a murder coming up, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to win. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, some of the things that you and I talked about when we were saying online during the R. Kelly case, because I know you were there from the time I was there last year, and you were giving me some pointers of what to expect, what this looked like, and things like that. So, from your point of view, what did you think about the actual trial?
oh my gosh. So I think that he didn't hire the right lawyers. That's just what it is. When you have a trial, especially one that's that long, you have
Mhm.
to have a team. and that team has to work well together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And his team did not work well together. I remember seeing before the trial, two of his other lawyers had withdrawn from his case because they felt like the person who was being the new lead attorney, which was I think Nicole, they were like she didn't have enough experience, so on and so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
what they were saying was this is about to be a train wreck, and we're trying to hop off now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's what they did. So going into it, I think she was the lead attorney, but I don't know if you noticed throughout the case, they had to like make a change. And
Mm-hmm.
so then the other two lawyers, the two black men were like the lead attorneys. And
Mm-hmm.
that was like what needed to happen. But it's really difficult to change like team assignments in the middle of trial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like he paid the cost.
Yeah. 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 Now, there are a couple of things that I noticed that the government have been doing, um, and I'm trying to figure out how is this possible. Like the Don Russell case and the even with the Dubosky thing that recently happened. How is it that the government can try to put this as part of Mr. Kelly's case when he has nothing to do with it?
So I think so. A lot of times the government works their cases backwards, especially when they charge someone quickly. Like they
Mhm.
charge the case and then they work backwards to get the evidence and stuff that they need.
Mhm.
It's not fair to the people that the person that's being charged to them and to their families, but that's what they do. Especially like prime example, the Dubosky case.
Mhm.
There was no threat from what I read. There was no threat, but they charged it. And so then what you do is you go back from there to see, okay, what subpoenas can we get? What records can we get to prove up this case? So in his situation, it's, I almost feel like it's an abuse
Mhm.
because you don't have a threat. And I
Mhm.
think his case is a prime example of when you don't have people that represent the people you're charging, meaning like a black person. You don't have a
Mhm.
black person that's charging the case or a black case agent. You have a
Mhm.
white case agent, you have a white prosecutor. Because I remember one of the things they said was that people were cash apping him money and they were like making comments and they were like, oh, I think someone was like, oh, 30
Dirty
shots or 30,
rounds. Dirty
yeah.
rounds. Mhm.
And they were like, oh, they were taking that. The case agent said that he took that as the people were sending him the Bowski money to buy ammunition. Like any black person knows that's not what the hell that means. Like that's
Mhm.
so far fetched. And
Mhm.
it's dumb because why would someone in a random state or even in the same city pay him to buy them ammunition? You can't,
Mhm.
and you can't buy 30 rounds of ammunition. A box does not come in 30s. So it's just like complete foolishness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So in cases like that, what would be the best approach? Because they gave him what do you call it? One of those attorneys
Oh,
with
court
a
appointed lawyer. Yeah.
appointed a lawyer. Um, what would be the best approach with something like that? I mean, do you think a court appointed attorney is going to really help?
So, and in certain I feel like the best situation is to get your own lawyer. So in the federal system, because you go before a judge to get arraigned, typically within 48 hours, and you need a lawyer there,
Mhm.
they automatically give you a court appointed lawyer. It's automatic. And if you have someone, then that person substitutes in. Or
Mhm.
you, when you're talking to pretrial services, you tell them I already have a lawyer, and then they
Mhm.
call you a lawyer.
Mhm.
But the best thing is to go ahead and hire yourself your own attorney because for a lot of times, it's for them, it's just a job. They want to get this case over with because they don't get their check until the case is over.
Mhm.
Like if they're, and I've seen lawyers do like really horrible things, like, my mortgage is like, they'll, their mindset is my mortgage is due, my car notes is due, I gotta get this case moved so I can get my check, not necessarily looking out for the best result for the person. And another thing is, like, in situations, possibly it may be like what works out for him, he may decide he's going to trial. A lot of lawyers do not want to go to trial.
Why is that?
It's stressful. It's
Okay.
stressful. You typically, depending on your staff, you typically don't make money while you're in trial, because if I'm in trial for a week, that means I don't have people coming into my office for consults and things like that. Not only that, like, if a trial is a week, your days and your nights are filled with that trial for that week or for however long it is. So just imagine how long R. Kelly's case was and the amount of time his lawyers had to put into it, not even before trial and preparation, but actually in trial. So no, a lot of lawyers do not want to go to trial, and a lot of lawyers don't have the skill set to go to trial. It's sad, but they don't.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm gonna go detour back to you again because I was looking at your channel and you talk about the prison reform. What are some of the projects that you're working on with the prison reform?
So actually, we were just working on that. My assistant, so what happened is, and the BOP, they were supposed to be releasing people from prison to home confinement because of COVID. So, and I think at that time, even now, I think the BOP probably has 150,000 inmates in custody. When they announced that they could get home confinement, to date, out of 150,000 people, I think it was actually 160 then, they only released like 4,000 and some change. So it's just like, that's like less than 1%. So you mean to tell me out of 160,000 people, only 4,000 people qualified? Not only that, most of the people that are in the federal system are there for nonviolent offenses. So a lot of people are eligible. And then I saw like people reaching out like, oh, you know what? My case manager, changed my pattern score to a medium because of X, Y, and Z. Or, we've caught case managers in lies, things like that. And because the person is in custody, they may not necessarily have the resources to reach out to say, oh, no, this person lied. I have the documentation, I have the evidence to prove that this person lied. Pretty much my thought process is like, after the former president's friend got out, they didn't care about releasing nobody else, because why was only 4,000 people let out? It's ridiculous, and it's like it's a scam. So I think like my next, I'm going to do a TikTok series called "The American Justice System is a Scam," and it's going to talk about like all these different things, and it's just insane, like what our tax dollars pay for, and we get nothing. Like, people like really get screwed a lot, and like sadly, the people who they target brown people. So the BOP, at first, the inmates were Black based on their stats. Most of the inmates were Black, and then it was Hispanic, and then white. But then it was Hispanic, then Black, then white. But recently the BOP got cute. They started listing Hispanic people as white. So now it looks like, oh, mostly white people are in federal custody. It's not. They're Mexicans.
Wow. Wow. Okay, we're gonna go back to we're gonna jump from back and forth to back and forth.
Ahead.
Now I remember when we were online and you were educating me on the guidelines and the pretrial sentencing report and how the numbers were calculated and things like that. And one of the things you did explain to me is that with R. Kelly, since he has never had a criminal record, I think it was like this, the number was like really low. But when we went to court, it seems like they were doing all these specialized things. How, I don't get, I didn't get it. Couldn't quite understand exactly how they
Okay.
raised into those numbers.
All right. So in the sentencing guidelines, it's so messed up, but we like literally use a chart to determine someone's life. Totally
Mhm.
screwed up. But so we have these two things. We have on the sentencing guideline chart, we have what's called the offense level and then the person's criminal history. And if you give me 2 seconds, I can grab my code book.
Okay. All right, guys, get the likes up because she's giving us some good information.
Okay. So this is my sentencing guidelines book. And this is the chart that's used in every federal criminal case. This one.
Mhm.
No, sorry, this one. All right. So you have like two parts.
And let me put you solo. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So the top part is the person's criminal history. And then on this side is the offense level. So each offense in the Senate, like in the federal system, has an offense level. And so you then from there, you get like a range. So I think for R. Kelly, when she did all of his enhancements and all of that, he got it only goes to level 43. Um, he was at level 46, but because it only goes to 43, he got 43. And his criminal history was 1. So his range was life. Like most of it's like 360 to life, 292 to 365. And this is all in months. But you get a range. For him, it was life. So it starts out with a base offense level. I think it was like 20 something. And then from there, you add all these enhancements. And so, and that's how they got to the really high numbers, which was adding all of these enhancements. Because I think for some of them, they were like really low, like 12 and 14. That was the offense level. And I mean, that's no time at all. But once you start going and adding up these enhancements, that's
So,
when you get to, go ahead.
but there was like some where they should have been combined and they didn't combine it. So why did she make a choice of not combining it?
So I think there's two things that she had to combine and deal with. And one was it's within the RICO statute and just overall, which is called grouping. And grouping is like when you have multiple offenses, and you don't want to like overcharge someone. Well, not overcharge, but like over sentence someone. So you have to deal with the grouping. And it's like, okay, you add this and then you add this. And how many counts was it? Then you add this many points. And it's just like stacking it up, stacking it up, stacking it up. And then he also had all these other counts. And what she did do was she gave his other counts for them to serve concurrently, which means while he's serving each of these, like he's going to be serving all of these together versus if she had done the other counts where he's serving them consecutively, he would be doing, the 30 years plus the 10, plus the other 10, plus the 5. So she really could have stacked them up, but she didn't. But the enhancements is how you get to those outrageous numbers for sentencing.
Wow. But I mean, to me, certain things were not proven. Even when she talked about the ones that was not charged, like the Sonia one,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he added that number in there. So how is she able to do that?
So the jury said that they didn't feel like Sonia's allegations were proven. So, and I think a lot of people have brought this up because even though the jury felt that Sonia's allegations weren't proven, she was still able to give a victim impact statement. The thing is, the victim impact statement has no bearing on the actual case. Or appeal or anything like that. I know it doesn't seem fair, but it has no bearing on anything.
But it makes him look bad, and also he has another case going on, get ready to come up.
Yes, he does. So it does. So I think another thing is like victim impact statements, they generally come at the very end. So that you can judges can save face and say, this didn't affect my sentence. And let's be clear, Judge Dunley, when she was giving her sentence, she said, this number that I have that I'm going to give, I had this in my mind already. like before anything, before the PSR, like before I knew what the guideline range was. She was like, this was the number I already had in my head.
But isn't that not fair?
It's not fair because it's like the judge is starting with this number already in her head. You don't know what the number is, and you don't know what you can say to sway the judge. So
But it
yeah,
was
it's
no
definitely not
swaying on
fair.
her. There's no swaying on her. She already had her mind made up. But
Exactly.
here's the thing. I have a question. Let me bring myself back in. Um, when her background, the judge's background, is from the sexual. She was a sex prosecutor and things like that. Why is it that she was able to be on that case when it's already biased?
So in federal criminal cases and in pretty much everywhere, cases are assigned by rotation. Like a
Mhm.
judge doesn't pick which case they want; they're assigned by rotation. So that's just kind of how it goes.
Okay, then if it's a rotation, how did the Boski cases go into her? Don Russell case, other cases go into her. How is that? If it's
So
rotated.
what they're doing is saying that, hey, these cases are related and there may be like similar facts. So they're going to the same judge. So like say for instance, if he had co-defendants, all of those cases would have been before her. They just weren't co-defendants.
But they two different. You
Oh,
get
I
what I'm saying?
completely understand and agree. Like it's definitely like it's definitely a can of worms.
It's crazy. Oh my God.
And so
Now,
even if she wasn't the original judge that was assigned, let's just
mhm.
say Judge ABC was assigned, that judge can say, hey, you know what? I want to recuse myself from this case. And then hopefully it'll get rotated to someone else. And then she could have been the winner. So,
Wow, wow. Oh, okay. I tell you, I don't know. The justice system seems not for us; it's for them. So it's like, so how do we overcome? I mean, even with the, I'm gonna bring back the Boski thing. Freedom of speech, it's being taken away. That's what it looks like to me. He
mhm.
can't give his opinion about something. He can't express how he feel about something, and then all of a sudden, now he's being charged with something that has nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like them charging him was really like malicious and retaliatory because you don't have a case. Like from what I read, from what he said, those are not threats, and they know that. They know it's not a threat. I think it's more of bullying than anything, and I've seen that happens all the time. It sadly, but it does. It happens all the time.
But how can you get over that kind of stuff as
So
regular people?
this is the thing. You have to understand, like these types of situations, it's almost like, oh, you want to do X, Y, and Z. You want to not stand in line. Okay, let me make an example out of you. Even if you win the case, we still have drugged you through the mud for all this time. We still ruined you financially, all of these things. So we're going to show you to get in line.
Hmm. All right. I'm gonna get off on that soapbox for a minute.
Okay.
On your last video, you were telling us some tips on what to do as far as with the police and things like that, not let them inside your home. But one of the things you did say that we need to record
Mhm.
home protection. Arizona just recently passed a law that you can't record a police officer. I know you and I talk about it, but I wanted to bring it to the forefront in regard to that. What are your thoughts, and how do we get past that?
Okay. So I think the law is you can't record within 8 feet. I think
Mhm.
that's what it's for, what it is. But regardless of that, if you are past 8 feet, you're past 8 feet, record on. If you're just to say in your car,
Mhm.
I would still turn my video on and just sit the phone down. So I at least still have the audio. Like,
Okay.
okay, no, I'm not recording you, your face, all type of stuff, but I at least need the audio. And you can turn the camera on and sit it down and let it go and just sit it down and not even touch the phone. and let the interaction play out. But you definitely need to record it because, one, as we all know, cops lie. And two, cops are able to turn off their body camera footage. See it all the time. I am working a murder case right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it all the time. And cops be like, okay, disconnect. And they like hit the button on their little camera because it's usually like carried in their chest. And then they'll come back on. So what happens is cops get caught in lies a lot of times because like this, officer may turn off his camera, but there's like another officer in the area or like within their circle who's talking, and that officer doesn't turn off their camera. So you still get it. But no, you have to protect yourself. Even in my car, I have a dash camera in my car.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say, it has got me out of plenty tickets. But you need it. And so even with it, I remember once I was on the freeway. I was probably going like 85. Like, I think the speed limit was probably 65. I'm going. Cop pulls me over, and he sees I knew he didn't clock me. I knew he didn't. So he comes to my car. He sees that I have a camera. He gets my insurance, whatever. He comes back and he's like, I want to give you a warning. Because my camera records in the front of me and in the back of me.
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
So he knew I was going to be able to say, I know you didn't clock me. I got a warning. But also you need it like in case you end up in that car accident and it's your word against theirs. Like it's you having a dash camera in your car is not going to hurt you. I guarantee it. It's not going to hurt you.
But it's your car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You did mention about the searching and about don't allow them to come inside your house. You did say that. Don't allow a police officer to come inside the house, and never call the police on a black man.
Unless it's absolutely necessary. Correct.
It's absolutely necessary because we already know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And let me back up because a lot of people were commenting about that. So like I said, was unless it's necessary. I'm not saying if a man is hitting you, don't call the police. What I am saying is a lot of times people call the police for things that if you're an adult enough, you can handle. So like say for instance, if you and your kid's father are like doing a custody exchange, like where you drop the kid off, you exchange them at 6 or 7 or whatever it is. And the other person is, late or just not nice or didn't bring all the stuff. And then y'all start arguing and you like, oh, you know what? Screw you. I'm calling the police. Like, why are you doing that? That's not necessary.
Yeah.
Why are you calling police on someone just because you're upset?
A lot of women do that. A lot of women do that.
And that's why I said it. And people were in the comments like, oh, you didn't say not call police on a black woman. It's just like, no, it's because this is what I see and this is what's happening on a regular basis. So then the police come out and then it's a complete escalation and it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah. And then the thing is, walk away. If y'all get having this argument, just walk away. Just no matter who, just walk. That's what I would just walk away. No.
And I also see this like in situations with parents and their kids. And when I say kid, the kid could be 19, 18, 17, whatever it is. And the kid is like unruly or, whatever happened. Calling the police on your kid is not the answer. Like, that's just what it is. Because, okay, I understand that you possibly feel like you can't control this child or your teenager's talking back or whatever it is. The police ain't gonna make them mind. This ain't, that's damn sure not the answer. And threatening your child with police action when they've done nothing criminal, that's not appropriate. And one, that's not what police are there for.
Yeah. Are you willing to take some questions from the people in the chat?
Sure.
Okay. Nisi Mo, I'm going to put them at the bottom. Nisi asks, how can we make changes within the government law?
Contact your Congress member. That's how you do it. Contact your Congress members. When things happen that I notice and that I don't like, I always write my Congress members. When I first did my prison reform project, the first one, with my own money, I sent a letter to every Congress member, U.S. Congress member in Texas.
Okay. Which is okay. Next question. How can a judge take a case? You're not a judge on the other side, but you're supposed to be bound to balance it. Here, both sides, she rejected everything that R. Kelly's lawyer presented in front of her, so she didn't judge. That's what Larry says.
So this is the thing. We have this a phrase we use in the law, which is prosecutor on the bench.
Mm.
So typically when someone is a prosecutor and then they become a judge, they're more favorable to the prosecutors and what they want versus what the actual law is. It happens. So you have certain judges where this judge is the prosecutor on the bench. They're not going to give me a fair trial. They're probably going
Which
to
is
deny
what
my
she
bond.
was.
Yeah, you're going to have that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called, being a prosecutor on the bench.
Wow. Now, she says, can you explain immunity from prosecution? And I think
Yes.
they're dealing with the case in Chicago because there's a lot of people who's getting immunity from this new trial in Chicago.
Yes. Let me just say, I think this trial in Chicago is going to be insane. So immunity means, hey, person, you may have done something wrong. You may have done something criminal for which we can charge you. However, if you cooperate with us and help us, we are not going to charge you with what you did wrong.
That is so
So I think his name is Demetrius Smith.
Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they forced him to testify in the R. Kelly trial. So because they gave him immunity. And it's weird how they did it, but basically what they did was they forced him to testify. And so he had no choice. I don't know if you recall, he was there like in the courtroom with his lawyer.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hey, I don't want to cooperate. I don't want to testify, but you are essentially forcing me because you're saying I have no reason not to tell you the information because you're taking away the chance of me being charged.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in regards to getting the ID so that he could marry Aaliyah. So that R. Kelly could marry Aaliyah. And it was wild. I can't believe they even took that situation that far, because I don't know if you remember from trial, he was not even involved in getting the ID or the marriage license.
No, he was not.
He just got in the car and he was in the car the whole time. But yeah.
It's crazy. But then they said he benefited from it.
Yeah, and it's just like, so I think that one, there really wasn't a benefit because now his ass is in jail for it. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, in that situation, they talked about exactly how it happened. And he didn't even come up with the idea to marry her. I think it was his manager came up with that idea. And then Demetrius, he said he didn't want to be excluded from like the conversation and what was going on. So he came up with the idea and said, oh, I can get her an ID.
And I know somebody.
Yeah, and I know somebody. And R. Kelly had nothing, like he didn't participate in that at all. But here it is. They're saying, oh, well, it was his enterprise. This man didn't even have the capacity, like he didn't even have the thought process to come up with that. But that's what happened.
Yeah. Now, going back to the immunity, because remember, the young lady in the first videotape said it wasn't her. Everybody in the family said it wasn't her. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's having immunity because they lied to a grand jury. They lied to a grand jury, supposedly lied to a grand jury, and then they were supposedly scared. But you live with him, you've been around him all these years, and nothing happened to Sparkles, who told on him. He didn't kill her off or anything like that. So how is it you're scared of him, but you've been around him?
Yeah. So I think the Chicago case is going to be a complete goat rodeo, because you have a lot of back and forth. You have a lot of, okay, the first tape, no, this was not her. And it was multiple people saying this was not her. And then they were not cooperating and so on and so forth. And then now people are going to say, well, yeah, it was her. But the thing is, if his lawyers are good and they're smart, that's credibility issue all day, because you lied to an officer, you lied to a grand jury, you lied to a detective or whatever it was before. And now you're in court, and now your story has completely changed. And in all of this time, all these years that have passed, you had the opportunity to say, I lied and I want to do the right thing or whatever it is. And you never did. So, like, attacking credibility, if they do a good job, he could end up with a hung jury.
Amen. Amen. That's, yeah. Whew. Lord, 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 Lord. I'm just praying. Um, the other thing I wanted, somebody else has a question. Hold on, let me see a question. There was a question. Did I miss a question, mods? I thought I saw a question here. Sorry. Okay. All right. Nisimo said it's against the law for someone to hack your phone pretending to be a federal agent. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is also against the law to pretend to be a federal agent. So that's two crimes.
Woo! There's a lot of that stuff going on around here in this case. You got people sending the agents false information and oh my God, it's just we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Let me see. I was trying to see, guys. Bring your question. Okay, here's a question. It says, if a person is acquitted of a charge, is it true that if the government brings the same charges reworded, aren't they not allowed to use the same witnesses and the same evidence?
All right. So I think what this question is, and it may not be, but I'll give you my answer. So let's just say a person is this is R. Kelly. All right, his case in the old one that he won in Chicago. I believe it was a state charge, not a federal charge. So he won, but we have two different sovereignties in the U.S. You can be charged at the state level with the case, and you can be charged at the federal level with the same exact case.
Well, can you go from, okay, like Geronda, for example, she going from here all the way to Chicago with the same stuff that happened in Chicago for this new case? How is that possible?
So because in New York they charged it as RICO. So that's the difference. They charged it as a RICO.
Okay. And see, that's the thing that people don't understand, that he was actually charged with RICO and Mann Act in the New York case. And now this case is child pornography, right? Is that okay? Let's see. Okay. If there is a hung jury, do you think they will retry the case?
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's going to depend on, because one thing that we had the opportunity to do after a hung jury, and let me back up. In the federal system, a hung jury is a win. That's a win.
It's a win?
It's a win. So after we have a hung jury, we have the ability to talk to the jurors or poll the jurors to see where they were. Like, was it 6-6 down the middle? Was it 7-5 in favor of guilty? Was it 2-10 in favor of not guilty? You get to add, if the judge allows it, we get to talk to the jurors afterwards. So I think it's more of, okay, it's a hung jury. Let's see how they were split. And if the judge allows us to talk to them afterwards, let's ask them like what their issues were with the case. So it's an evaluation of, okay, how were the jurors split? But not only that, do we think we're going to be in the same boat with the retrial?
Okay, so if they feel it's going to be the same boat, they'll just drop it. If not, they're going to go try it again.
If they feel like they're going to win, yeah, they're going to retry it.
Okay. Now, the other question I have in regards to that, the last case, the jurors we still don't know who the jurors are. And can they still poll those juries to find out where their head was at for the New York case, or?
Yeah, so that happens with the lawyers, and I don't know how they did the jurors information, but when we get the juror panel, that's like when everyone comes for jury duty, and we make the selections. We get the person's name, address, spouse, what they do for a living, where they live. We get all this information. But a lot of times the judges will shred that information afterwards. So you no longer have access to it. So it's a matter of, did the lawyers do their part to make copious notes to make sure they still had access to it? And if you do still have access to it, then you send your investigator out to see if the juror wants to speak with you.
But these jurors have not come out. They never came out. Now, with the sequencer jury, remember how they were sequencered and then not sequencered, they were anonymous, not sequencered. So how is it that they were able to go home right during deliberation and they supposed that part I didn't understand.
So what typically happens is, let's say it's an anonymous jury and the government has asked for an anonymous jury for whatever reasons, for safety issues, so on and so forth. The smart thing to do would be to sequester the jury as well. So during this trial, they would be sequestered. Prime example, the OJ case where he was accused of the murder of his ex-wife. Those jurors were sequestered. So the problem is that jurors hate that, especially in a long case, because I can't be with my family. So I think that during deliberations, sequestering them definitely would have been appropriate. I don't understand. I don't know why she didn't, because it would have been appropriate, especially in this situation, because his case got so much media coverage. And so as part of the jury instruction, you tell the jurors, like, don't Google about this, don't look online about this, don't read any articles about this. But if you were in New York at that time, this was on the news everywhere, so you really couldn't avoid it. So the appropriate thing to do would have been to sequester them, so that she could ensure that there were no outside influences.
But you notice she never polled them when they came back, because I've seen cases where they asked, the judge always asked, did anybody look at the news? Did anybody? She never said that. Remember, she never asked the jurors, did anybody talk to you? And never. So I felt that was kind of weird as well.
So I think like a lot of judges just kind of rely on their like initial instruction, and like maybe because you give that instruction at the beginning of the trial and then you give it to them again before they begin deliberations. But because this case was so long, and I've had judges do this, they tell the jury that every night before they leave. As a reminder, you're still under the same oath. You still cannot, talk to anyone about this. You still can't read articles about this, so on and so forth. But we like the way that the news comes now on your phone. You may not be even looking for this, but here it is. It's on your timeline.
Yeah. And one of the things you did say that the amount of time it took them to deliberate was like unheard of, because they had so much like emails and text messages, and supposedly they didn't show all the videos, but all that evidence, it was impossible for them to come back in 9 hours to give a verdict.
Oh no, they had their mind made up.
Yeah.
They had their mind made up, because in the case, and I talked about this in one of the videos, like his lawyers just didn't have a theme for the case. And so when I say a theme is like whatever your position is and you carry it throughout the case. They didn't have a theme. They just attacked the witnesses. And if they had a theme, I think he would have had a better result. So say, for instance, what I think the theme should have been in his case was, you're going to hear a lot about sex. You're going to hear a lot about wild sex and weird sex and, bisexual sex. You're going to hear all of these things. However, wild sex is not a crime. And had they carried that theme throughout the entire case and asked questions about that, like say, for instance, when the judge mentions this at sentencing, she's like, she would never forget the story about when R. Kelly was with a guy and he snapped his fingers or something, and a girl came from under a boxing ring and gave R. Kelly oral sex and gave the other guy oral sex, right? But the cross-examination should have been to that witness. Okay, this happened.
But she never came out. Remember, she got sick and she never testified, but they brought the victim in.
But his lawyer should have asked that guy who was testifying, okay, and this happened. And that lady, she was an adult, correct? She appears to be over 18, correct? She wasn't under duress. She wasn't being forced, correct? Like, and that's not a crime, correct? Having sex, random sex with someone, that's not a crime. Having someone under a boxing ring to have sex on call, that's not a crime, is it? And it's just carrying that throughout, that to keep it that, hey, this is wild sex. This is different probably from what everyone else is doing, but it's not a crime. And that should have been carried out, because this trial, everyone was, let's like be clear, people were really into this case because they wanted to know about the wild sex. Like, that's just what it was. And instead of recognizing that, just saying we're going to attack the witness's credibility, no, you need a little bit more than that. Like, this was a big case.
Yeah. I was trying to get my question because, guys, you got to type capital letters if you want me to ask your questions, because I can't see, I'm blind here. There was something here that someone put out. Okay. Miss Coltrane, Lady Coltrane said, is it impossible for Mr. Kelly to receive a fair trial with all the media vomiting spewed out for people to view? The jury pool is tainted and their minds were made up for sure. So
getting a fair trial, most people don't get a fair trial. I know in America, the justice system says you're innocent and proven guilty. No, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. That's just the reality of it. So for him to get a fair trial, one, and I think they may have tried it in Chicago, like trying to move the case to a different jurisdiction, saying that, hey, the jury pool in Chicago is too tainted and people are too familiar to get this case, to be unbiased. So getting a fair trial, no, not even because it's him, but because, one, most people don't get a fair trial, and two, the media coverage is insane. I don't think anyone in Chicago is going to go a day without seeing or hearing something about this case.
But it's one-sided, the media coverage. It's one-sided.
No, it definitely is. And I think that you have to keep, like in America, how the way the news works, people create these headlines just for clickbait. It may not even be what's actually in the story, but people only read the headline and just go with that and don't read what's actually in the case. So that's the unfortunate part of how people process things. So to go into this case, the Chicago case, for him to get a fair trial, I definitely think that the jury should be sequestered so that there can be an assurance that, no, there have been no outside influences. So I think that's the first thing that needs to happen. And then I think that in regards to motions, sidebars, limines, all of that, those are things that happen during trial. I think that his lawyers have to be on point for those. Have to be, because that's where things can get sticky. And when you're in trial for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, like, you're tired, you're drained. So you're not just on point all the time, which is why you have to have like a really good trial team.
Okay. Now the other question, they did a special panel. What is that? Special jury panel? What is that all about?
In which case?
In the Chicago one. They just ordered a special, let me see if I can pull it up for you. An actual special panel. And let's see. For them to, I don't know, let me see, hold on a second. Let me just pull it up. Just 1 second. Sorry, I'm just on the other screen.
Go ahead.
Now. Can you see the questions they have while I look this up?
I can't see them.
If you hit the comments, I think on your screen, you should be able to see them.
So I think I see. Hold on. Comments. Ooh, okay. It takes my screen away.
Oh, it took your screen away? Okay, never mind.
I don't know if they can see me, but I can't. Yeah.
We can see you. We can see you.
Okay.
See you.
All right.
So while I look up this special panel thing here.
All right.
We have over 200 something people in here.
Okay, I will answer this question from Glow Taylor. She says, "Do you think any of the parents will be prosecuted?" No, I don't. And
Why not?
I think that's just super unfortunate. And I think that's what like a lot of the public, that's what they can't wrap their heads around. It's like all of this happened. You guys are saying that it was an organization, but the parents helped and the parents assisted, and they did. But the government is not going to charge them because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Okay. Here it says here requested for a separate jury panel pursuant to local rule 47.1B as to Robert Sylvester Kelly, Daryl McDavid, Milton Brown, signed by the Honorable Harry D. Ledenweber. So what is a special jury panel? What is that?
Okay. So when you, let's just say we're going to trial tomorrow.
Okay.
And all of these jury notices have gone out to the counties in the district. And if I have trial tomorrow, let's say there's 5 other trials scheduled. And the jury, let's say we got 200 people coming. Mm-hmm. So in order to ensure that we have enough people for my trial, I say, Judge, well, we know you guys are pulling people in for all these other cases. I want you guys to pull in an additional 50, 60, whatever it is, people, so that we can ensure that my trial does not get continued because we don't have enough people on the panel.
Okay.
Because
so additional people.
Yeah.
It's not special.
No, you need additional people, especially in a case like his, because there's potential to do something what's called bust the panel. Mm-hmm. So busting the panel is in jury selection. Let's say we start out with 60 people. We know only 12 are going to get picked, probably 2 alternates. Well, when you're asking the questions, if the jurors are giving answers to the questions that will disqualify them, then you may not have enough jurors left for the trial to move forward. Because you got to have at least 14 left. You can have 12, but you won't have any alternates.
But my question is, so now, will they be in court as well, these additional special panel ones, or it's just
no? It's just, so let me back up. So the jury process is this: you have 60 people, or however many people they got to come in, and then in jury selection in Texas, it's called voir dire. In Texas, we say voir dire. That's where the lawyers ask questions of these 60 people to see whether or not they are going to be selected or deselected to be on the actual trial. Mm-hmm. So you ask questions, how do you feel about child sex abuse? How do you feel about child pornography? And if they give an answer that I don't like, I can ask the judge to strike them. Mm-hmm. And the prosecution will ask questions and they can strike them as well. And from that, if I do 20 strikes and they have 30 strikes, then we're down to only 10 jurors. We don't have enough jurors to move forward with the case. So we won't go to trial on that day, and we have to start over and get another jury panel. So you want a special panel to make sure you have enough people.
Got you. Okay. She says, what can a lawyer do to combat the fact that the prosecutors offered witness immunity?
You really can't do anything. I think that, and let's back up. Let's go with Demetrius Smith, because just so happened last week. So in my office, I have a TV, and I turn it on just for background noise sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I turned it on the Surviving R. Kelly, like the second one, like after everything had happened. And so I was surprised. I saw Demetrius Smith on there, and he was talking to them about whatever he was talking to them about. But then he gets to court and he doesn't want to testify. The problem is, like, even before he testified in court, I'm 99% sure he testified before the grand jury. So if you didn't want to testify or be involved, one, why were you on this TV show? But two, why did you testify before the grand jury? Yeah, you would have gotten.
I thought you forced to testify in grand jury. So you're not forced?
Yeah, so you can get the subpoena, you can go, and you can plead the fifth a million times in the grand jury.
Okay.
Or you can, like, a lot of times, like how he had his lawyer in court, you can have your lawyer outside. You can not recall anything. I think that comes from the I want to say like the Melendez brothers case with the yeah. And so the officers had, like, on the second trial, had told the witnesses, like, if you don't, you can always say, I don't recall, I don't recall, I don't recall. So yeah, it happens. But people, he kicked himself. Like, why would you go testify before the grand jury and give information, but you don't want to testify at trial? That's the next logical step, sir. Like, how did you how did you not know that?
Wow. And it says, does Miss T think Kells have a good chance for appeal?
Yes, this pill is going to be exciting because this is crazy. He has a really good chance of appeal. I hope he has an amazing team for the appeal, because there's so many arguments. There's so many. And I'm really, really excited to see, because all the things that happen in trial, whether it's denying motions, whether it's, not letting certain witnesses testify, all of that can be brought up on appeal. And so I'm really excited to see what they're going to use for his grounds for appeal. I'm really excited.
What do you think about the mitigation part, the mitigation report thing?
Ooh, child. As I said in my video, they shouldn't have used it. Or his lawyer. So let's back up. Those people were hired by his team. So one of two things should have happened. His lawyer should have told the mitigation person, do not ask about X, Y, and Z. Or she should have gotten the report and said, you know what, I'm not going to use it, because it was hers. It wasn't the government's. No one else had to see this if she decided she didn't want to use it. She should not have used it. And if you remember, in sentencing Judge Dunn, she said, you didn't have to talk to those people. All you did for, like, in that, you used that to deny everything. And of course, you need to deny it because you have appeals going. But she should have given her mitigation person instructions not to ask about things or people that were involved in the case because of the appeal. Because one thing that I mentioned is, like, in the report, he admitted he had herpes. But in trial, Nicole was trying to argue that he didn't. So why did you just admit something that your lawyers argued or tried to argue, like, didn't apply? And you have an appeal. It wasn't the move. It definitely was not the move. They could have gotten a great mitigation report. And like I said, they should have just asked the mitigation person to not ask about people that are involved in the case.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Somebody said thank you. That it was horrible. Okay. How much time do you have for us? I just don't want to put,
as much as you want.
Okay, as much as y'all, we can go. This is great stuff. Hit the like button, guys. Give Timoney the likes. Okay. Okay, here's a question here. Why was the judge having personal conversation with one of the so-called victims?
I don't know. But one thing I can say is, in the federal system, judges have a lot of leeway. So the prosecution can ask questions, the defense can ask questions, and surprise, the judge can ask questions. So the federal system is very different in that respect, because the judge can be involved and ask questions of the witnesses themselves.
Yeah. Okay, here's another good one. Okay, I'll try again. Will Michael Avenatti play a part in this?
If the government is smart, they better not. They better not. Do not bring that man up. If the government is smart, they won't be bringing him up.
But can the defense bring him up?
Yeah. It's going to, if that man is involved, it's going to help his case. It's going to
bring him on.
No, it definitely would not be smart for the government to bring that man in at all. And I saw that on the when I was watching the second part of the Surviving R. Kelly thing, and then to know, like, he's been charged with so many things, and he's currently in custody and still has to get sentenced on another case. Michael Avenatti probably I think he has more cases than R. Kelly.
But do you remember Avenatti is the one that went on CNN, told about the tape that this happened and the 14-year-old PUSSY and all this kind of stuff, and he's the one who said he gave it to the prosecutor.
So I think from what I remember, he was saying it was like a totally different person.
Tape.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's alleging that, hey, you guys can have another count because
No, but remember he said it was 4 tapes. He said it was 4. So that's what they said in his trial.
So, but this is the thing. So bringing him in is not the move because there's too many questions at this point. His credibility is ruined and I would kill him. Even if you're trying to bring the tape into evidence and you need him to bring him into it. And let's just say this is a totally different person. So this is like someone this is not the original girl from 2000 and whatever. And you need him to, say how he got it so you can bring it introduced to evidence to say it wasn't tampered with, so on and so forth. No, on cross, I would kill him because I'd be like, oh, and you're a convicted felon, correct? And you're a convicted felon more than one time over, correct? And you're a liar, correct? And you're also a scammer. As a matter of fact, you tried to scam Nike, one of the biggest corporations in America, didn't you? And that didn't work, correct? And then you also represented, I want to say she's a prostitute. She may not be, Stormy Daniels. And you also represent her. And she had sex with the former president, correct? And you even stole money from her. It just goes like,
and then the quadriplegic, he stole money from that guy,
and it's like, and so you will do anything to make money. So you would also fabricate a tape, wouldn't you? So how do we know this tape isn't unedited? You want us to trust your word? How can we trust your word when we know you're a liar? Like it can just go, but it's just like one as an attorney. As a trial attorney, you have, like how I just gave that line of questioning, you literally have to be that quick on your feet. And a lot of people just aren't.
Yeah. Oof. Woo, Lord. Okay. There's another question. It says here, okay. Why didn't Kim F go? What's Kim F? Fox. Okay. Why didn't Kim Fox go to jail when her husband called the police on her? We don't know about that. You see,
I have no idea
about that. I was looking for questions.
But one thing I will say about that, I don't know what happened, but in domestic situations, let's just say where there is no domestic violence, y'all just mad, y'all just cussed each other out. Somebody said get out, the other person didn't. And a lot of states and a lot of cities too, they have a policy, well, hey, you know what? Let's just separate you guys for the night. One of you guys have to leave the home tonight. That's typically what happens when they don't have an actual case. Hey, one of you guys have to leave the home tonight.
Okay. Next question from Lori Fleming says, who or what department of the government oversees corruption of a judge or of the federal government?
Nobody. They are self-policing, which doesn't work. So, oh my God. There was this judge in Texas. He was a federal judge. He ended up getting charged later down the line for doing some crazy stuff, but it took them so long to charge them. And federal judges have lifetime appointments. And I've known so many federal judges to do like messed up stuff. But because they have lifetime appointments, nothing ever happens to them, no matter what messed up stuff they do. Because it's like self-policing. Yeah, the Department of Justice is the people who oversee it, but they're also the same people that, are charging people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Will the chain of custody be an issue in Chicago with CNN watching it?
So I bring all that up because if I have, and let me just say, I honestly believe Michael Avenatti had 2 motives when he gave the tape. 1, he wanted some money, and 2, he wanted more clout. That's all it was. So now knowing that he's a felon, he's a liar, he's a scammer, he's a thief. Yeah, I'd be like, oh, no, no. We don't know if this tape is authenticated. We don't know if it's edited. We don't know anything. And the person you have to ask is like, you guys are charging him in the totally separate case somewhere else.
So
So
they got to figure out where the tape came from. Where did the government get it from? How did it get to the government? Which we already know. Avenatti is the one that said that he gave it to them.
So I'm just curious. Okay, is he saying this is the same 14-year-old, or is he saying it's to somebody else, a different 14-year-old? That's what it's going to come down to. I don't think any CNN has seen the tape, but it has been made publicly available, and it's not going to be. So I think if anything, if it's a different 14-year-old, then that would be a separate charge, like a separate case. But they can't bring that case because they need Avenatti, and he's not a good person.
But he said it was 4 tapes, and according to the trial, it's 4 tapes.
We are
But
going to
see, the thing is, it was one main tape. It was cut up.
Okay.
That's what I read because I have the transcript from the old trial, right? It was cut up, and now this supposedly person is coming saying it was her on the tape when she said before it wasn't her. So it's the same stuff, same people.
And so this is the thing, like, and this just goes back to the witness credibility, because now it's you. You ain't know it was you back then, even though she was a minor. Then, like, you still had the ability to speak out.
No, she was an adult when that trial started, 2008. She was an adult when she went to the grand jury.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. This is like witness credibility 101. Like, and it's just, I really hope his lawyers do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is never my goal. I swear, it's never my goal. But like, literally, I would make her cry on the stand, because I'm going to bring it out that you're a liar, and I'm going to have you admit that you're a liar. It's happening. It's happening, baby.
Oh Lord, y'all, this gangster lawyer here.
No, because like, so sometimes in court, you have a witness, and you know what you want them to say, and they won't say it. So in my, like, what I do in those situations, that's what in my mind, I'm like, you know what, I got time today. And I'm like, let me get my leash so I can dog walk you through these answers. And it happens. I had a case where my client, it was a domestic violence case, and the girl had gotten mad because they had broken up, and she saw him on Facebook with someone else. All right. So then she calls and makes this report that she's kidnapped. In the closet, he has a gun. I knew this was a complete lie. One, because I had talked to her. Her dad is on the stand. And he had already admitted to the prosecutor that his daughter was a liar. In court, I said, you've admitted your daughter is a liar, correct? He's like, yes, correct. And I was like, would you say your daughter is a big liar, a small liar, or a medium liar? And he said, she's a medium liar. And I'm not kidding. Like, yeah. But it's the thing, like, you have to not be scared in court. And it's hard not to be scared. And a lot of lawyers are afraid of the question.
Why?
And because they may not know the answer and they aren't prepared for the answer. Or also you're afraid because, can I ask this question? Is the government going to object? I don't care. This question's coming in my mouth. If you object, you object.
Okay.
And so one thing is, there's this old deodorant commercial, and it's like, stress sweat is different than regular sweat. It is, because in court, like, I'm dying because my heart is racing so fast. Mm-hmm. But you have to be fearless. And if you aren't fearless, the jury's going to know. They're going to know you're scared of the question. They're going to know that. And that's where you come into, like, the issues.
So wouldn't they be like, oh, she's bullying the victim, or so?
Oh no. I'll just change my tone.
Okay.
So, and this is something that I do, and I don't think this was done in R. Kelly's case, but I've done it. And this is a great thing to do. Like, say, for instance, if a judge says, hey, you all can't go into a certain line of questioning with a witness.
Yeah, that's what they already put that out there already for the Chicago case.
All right. So what I asked for, I had my witness on my stand, and I was like, Judge, at this time, we need to excuse the jury. We need to do an offer of proof. So it's essentially, Judge, you said I couldn't ask these questions, but you excuse the jury, and you ask the witness the questions anyway for the record for appeal. So even though I couldn't ask the jury these questions, I get to ask them, the witness. And so if I lose on appeal, I can say to the appeals court, no, appeals court, this was the answer to these questions. Had I been able to ask, then we may have a different result.
Wow.
But again, you have to be that quick. And there's so much happening during trial. A lot of lawyers just look over that.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that one. Because
You're welcome.
I did see that happen in Cardi B, even though it's a civil case, but they removed the juries because they wanted to make sure that question got in there. And they removed the jury and they asked the question and they let the jury come back in.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. All right. You're giving some good nugget here. Look, Sir Miguel said, damn, Temani is no joke.
So I think like people always, like I have lots of lawyers who like contact me to ask me for help on their cases, to write their cross-examination, so on and so forth. And I always tell lawyers, you can't be afraid of the question or the answer, because if you are, like, the jury can tell. And one thing I hate that his lawyers didn't do in the New York case, because it was about the sex, and they didn't ask enough information about the sex because they were uncomfortable. You could tell.
But the judge also said they couldn't go in the background, talk about the background of past relationship, past partners of the
and that's fine, right? But let's like talk about, because I heard they brought this up at sentencing, scat sex. All right, it's weird, it is what it is, but you need to talk about it, and you need to be comfortable talking about it, because if you're asking this question and you're apprehensive in asking, the jury is going to notice that, and they're going to notice that you're afraid of, like, you are uncomfortable asking about it. You know what I mean? You have to say it very comfortably so that the jury is less apprehensive about it as well. Because they could have asked so many questions that they did not ask, because I know, because they weren't comfortable. But you have to take it there, because this is your client and this is their freedom.
Yeah, he says freedom because now he has 30 years and it wasn't fought hard. They want to know, are you going to attend the Chicago trial?
No, I will be, I think.
You're not going to be there with me?
Hold on, because I'm finishing my itinerary. I'm going, my birthday's next month, so I should be going.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. I should be like in Nairobi or somewhere when the trial starts.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Will you be back in September?
I get back I'm planning on coming back at the end of August.
Okay, so the trial will still be going on.
So one of my friends, my trial partner, he's actually licensed in Chicago. So I'm going to ask him about like how to get into the courthouse, all that kind of stuff. So if when I get back it's still going on, then yeah.
I'll reach out. I say, hey, we're still here, okay? So you're a Virgo or Leo?
I am a Leo.
Oh my God.
But I don't even know what that means. I'm just like,
just joking. Just the Leo males is the problem, not the women.
I understand. It'd be like that.
It'd be like that. All right. It says, okay. Question here. The judge didn't want to explore that. She tried to censor the expert on the BDSM.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Even I don't take it this far, but if I can't like get deep into it, I'll at least still skirt around the issue. This is the thing, and you got to be prepared for it. If you want to know the question, just go and ask it. If the judge is gonna yell at you, they're gonna yell at you. It is what it is. But I'm gonna still ask the question, and when the judge yells at me and says blah blah blah, yada yada yada, I'm gonna say, okay, Your Honor, I would like to do it off for proof. So for the record for appeals. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, Misguided says, I agree they should have normalized the BDSM and the scat sex in that courtroom to minimize jury shock.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, the trial was everyone wanted to know about the sex, and it's everyone talks about sex, but you don't talk about sex to strangers. You know what I mean? So it's uncomfortable, but you got to do it.
Okay, here's a question. What about his information being shared to YouTube blogger? What will happen with that? You know, the
As far as
thing, Natasha K, when she was getting his records from the court and sharing it with them.
Gotcha. So as far as the actual case, nothing will happen with that. Even if they try to bring that up, the court would say, that had no bearing on X, Y, and Z. That's what they're going to say. Now, as far as whoever gave the information, they should be fired, and he could sue the BOP.
Okay. Then it says here there was a lot of sidebars with Jane Doe number 5.
So these sidebars are something that we use when we need to address an issue like right then. That may be like about a motion in limine, or the prosecutor may say, okay, well, Your Honor, this is going towards a motion in limine, or we agree that we couldn't talk about that. Those are like what sidebars are for. I don't know who Jane number 5 is, so I don't have my notes anymore.
Azriel.
Oh, yeah, it should have been. It should have been, because, man, I don't, because I wasn't there when she testified.
I was there.
Oh my gosh. Let me just say, there's no way that her accounts should have, her stories should have been believed. Not because of any of the stuff with her parents or anything like that, but just a good cross examination. No, a good cross. Keep in mind, she was there. Her and Jocelyn came when he got arraigned in New York. Yeah, because yeah.
Do you remember? She was there. She
Mm-hmm.
surely was.
So that's what I'm saying. Like an effective cross. It's like, oh, now now he's this bad person. Now he was this monster that took advantage of you. Now this is what happened. But when he got charged, you were here to support him. You were here for his
and she did a whole bunch of videos, and she did like, this is a way. I can't wait to see my man. I can't wait when I see him, and this person, and you're supposed to be the smart one. She was like defending him to the hilt.
Yeah. So if using all of those things, there's no way that I would have, like how the jury found that Sonya's allegations were not believed. I would have made sure it happened for her as well, because there was too much good information from her from a defense point.
But why didn't they bring it in too? I mean, it's like the defense didn't have any video, and they had videos. We had so much information out there.
I feel like they had a lot of tools, and I think like I said, they had to change gears in the middle of trial to make it to Nicole not being the lead attorney. And then from there, you kind of dealt with what you got. You know what I mean? And I feel like they definitely lost steam midway. So I think that with not using what they had, that's definitely was to his detriment, because they had so many things that could have helped him. The fact that they only had like less than a handful of defense witnesses. Like, there's so many things, so many witnesses that you could have used, you know what I mean, to bring out certain things. He could have brought plenty of his other girlfriends that he's had over the years to be like, oh yeah, we was having sex, we was having orgies. It would be 10 of us. We're not underage girls ever there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you put 20 of them on, and you like, well, goddamn, if it was 10 of them in here, and every time everybody was over 18, like, you know what I mean? There's so many things that they could have done.
Yeah. Discredit them. Yeah. Let's see. Anybody have any questions? Because I don't want to hold because we're at that hour and 20 minutes mark. Because I got to bring you back. You know that, right?
Oh, it's fine.
And it says, why didn't they impeach her, Jane Doe number 5? Because the judge threatened that several times, and They didn't impeach her. Why not?
Man, they didn't do their job. That's just what it is, because they had so much ammunition to impeach her. They had so much ammunition, like the videos, like the text messages. Even if they couldn't bring in the text messages, they still had the videos. Even if they didn't have the videos, they could have got the picture from her and Jocelyn walking into the courthouse at his arraignment. These are
Mm-hmm.
all things that could have been used to impeach her.
Wow.
And I don't know why she was Jane Doe anything, because she was on TV, she was making videos. There was no reason for her to be a Jane anything. Like, that was just dumb.
And she lied on the stand. She lied because she kept switching up her story, and I don't know. Okay, it says even though the judge did not listen to the ineffective counsel argument, can it still be used for the appeal?
Yes, and I would argue my ass off for it, because you can I would use that argument in saying, yes, there was ineffective assistance of counsel, because one, hey, I'm R. Kelly. I cannot read and write. I don't have, the capabilities to, determine and distinguish certain things. I trusted my attorneys. However, you can see from the record that my two attorneys that I had, they withdrew because they felt like my lead attorney was not capable. And turns out she wasn't. So his previous attorneys withdrawing, that can help him with his ineffective assistance of counsel claim. The appeals court may say, well, the other lawyers were able to cross witnesses. And then, but the argument, he can say, well, hey, and then also I had to change lawyers, so on and so forth. So
And
his
they were only there for 1 month. They didn't have all the information. They didn't have all the information that was needed.
Exactly. So with that, that's an argument that he can bring. I definitely, I think he has a really good chance at appeal if they do their job right. I really, really do. And not only that, one thing I talked about it. So everyone was talking about these post-trial motions. I talk in the what we say is code sections, like the Rule 29 motion, the motion for judgment of acquittal, and then the Rule 33 motion, which is the motion for new trial. One thing that I'm really curious to see is if they're going to do a motion for new trial. It's a Rule 33. They have different types. So they just did a motion for new trial based on whatever. And on appeal, they can argue that as well, that the judge was wrong for denying the motion for new trial, right? But there's another motion for new trial that can be done up to 3 years from when he was convicted, which is a motion for new trial based on new evidence. So, and because even like after the trial, so much has come up, if they get some good stuff, like I can definitely foresee another Rule 33 motion for new trial based on new evidence.
Yeah, we talked about the new evidence before.
Yeah, so that's something that like I would be like, whoa, I want to see, like, if her investigators are out like doing their job, definitely I could see that happening because of all the things that have come into play since the conviction.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Timoney says, okay. What do you think about the statute of limitation for Chicago?
Okay, so it's two separate issues because he was charged, I believe it was a state case in whenever the first case was, and now it's a federal case. So the statute of limitations argument is totally different. So the statute of limitations has run, at the state level, but not at the federal level, because of what they're basically alleging is that, hey, this happened back then, and because of your actions, your tampering or whatever it is, this wasn't uncovered until later. So that's like how they're moving forward with the case. So that's the issue. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully he doesn't get convicted in Chicago. Hopefully he gets a hung jury, and we don't have to deal with this on appeal.
Okay. So with a hung jury, will he be able to get out and fight the appeal, or what? I mean,
No,
Can
she's not going to give. She's not going to give him a appeal. She's not going to give him a bond for while he's on appeal. Judge Donnelly is not going to give him a bond. She's not.
But I thought she's not going to be part of it no more if it's on appeal.
No, but you can get a bond while appeal is pending. So, excuse me. But he ain't gonna get one. We can just throw it out the window. Based on the case, the factors, so on and so forth. So if he gets a hung jury, he's still detained on the New York case. He's still in jail on the New York case.
But then how long will the appeal process take for the New York? Because they said that this District 2 is kind of fast. Is that true?
So the Second Circuit is, so what happens is everyone is different. It's really going to depend on the lawyers, because with briefing, so you file notice of appeal, you get the record to the appeals court. The court reporter gets the transcript, gets the record to the appeals court, and then the lawyers have to submit briefs. In the perfect world, I'll get my brief done within the first deadline. They'll get their brief done. I may be able to file, apply, and then the court gets it. But a lot of times on appeals, people ask for additional time. So
how much is the first time? Because she already did the paperwork there, because we saw that, which is a 14-day time frame. So now, how long do they have to get the brief in?
So first the court reporter has to get the record in. And that's
which they did that. I saw that the other day.
Yeah, so you get that in, and then you say, okay, how many days do I have to get this brief in? I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but you have so many days to get your brief in. But again, lawyers ask for extensions all the time on appeals cases. Some lawyers ask for 2 or 3 extensions. So it can take a while. So even if his lawyers get their briefs in, the government may ask for 2 or 3 extensions on theirs.
Okay. And then what happens then? They do go before the court and argue it, or how?
So they can ask for oral arguments. So a lot of appeals cases are decided on paper. You submitted your brief, we have the record, we make a decision. You can ask for oral arguments, which means, yes, you have my briefs, you have both of our briefs, but we want to come argue before the Court of Appeals in person. So you can ask for oral arguments.
And what's the purpose of that? To explain a little bit more? Or
yeah, because sometimes, and it happens, because I've watched oral arguments before, the judges have questions and will ask you right then.
Okay. Right. Okay, they were talking about Jaceline. Okay, here's a question. Question says, because of ours learning disability, can he use the Americans with Disability Act as a violation of his rights for ineffective counsel?
No, I know what they're getting at, but no. So the American Disability Act, don't even worry about that. Just scratch that out. He can use his learning disability with his ineffective assistance of counsel, and because it's already been established on the record that he can't read and write and that he has a learning disability, that's already established. You don't have to go with any acts or anything like that. It's already established, so the court can say, he couldn't comprehend certain things.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dorothy, for that question. Let's see. Okay. So the statute of limitation, we already answered that question, ma'am. We already answered that question. And Bree said, this is informative and amazing live. Thank you, Bree. Thank you. Okay. Here's another one. Rob says here, did she answer the question about the people getting if they receive immunity?
Yeah. So let's talk about the immunity. Is these people, this is basically what's happened. Let's just take Demetrius. These people testified before the grand jury or gave some statement in some capacity. Let's just say they gave a statement to an FBI agent and they don't want to testify for whatever reasons, and they're being forced to do so. The situation is this. I think a lot of them, they aren't willing, they don't want to testify because they wanted to give their information, but they didn't want to get too involved. Like, they didn't think it would go this far. Like, they thought, I'm gonna give you this information and that's it. Not knowing that yes, you have to come to court as well. So that's where you're getting into the issues of problems getting witnesses there, and then also the issue of immunity, because witnesses say, "Well, I don't want to get charged," and they're saying, "Oh, we're gonna make sure of it." So whatever issues or apprehensions you may have had, we're going to get rid of those to make sure that you come to court and testify.
But do jurors know that these people are going to have immunity, or is it something that's quiet?
No, it's not quiet. No, no, it's not quiet. A lot of times the prosecutor brings that out.
Oh, sorry. Not my card, not my phone. This is your stuff.
It's okay.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So a lot of times what happens is the prosecutor will bring that out on direct, which is when they're asking the witness question. When they are asking their witness a question, they'll say, "Okay, and you didn't want to be here today, correct? But you were forced, correct? Because we offered you immunity. Is that correct?" So they'll go ahead and bring that out before the defense can.
Now, one of the things that I noticed that the government placed in the Chicago case, they put down that Rashonda Lansfair, she there's like a communication where she was behind in her rent, and she had asked Mr. Kelly for rent, and he didn't want to give her the money, and then she turned around and said, "You remember who I am?"
That goes to that's motive.
Thank you.
That's motive.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I wonder how the jury's going to look on that.
Yeah, and you have to keep in mind, like, a Chicago jury pool is very diverse. They're going to have a lot of brown jurors. Not only that, one of the jurors from the previous case was like, we just didn't believe the women. They didn't look clean. They didn't look, X, Y, and Z. I don't know what people come up with this idea. People definitely judge people. So they were like, oh, no, we didn't like how they looked, and they didn't look clean, and X, Y, and Z. So when you have this jury pool that is extremely diverse, and you have these jurors who have motives, who have had motives, and have very, very extensive credibility issues. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting trial.
So, but they thinking it's going to be a slam dunk because because of New York, they got New York. It was so easy, supposedly easy. Now, all of a sudden, they go in Chicago and they're saying this is a slam dunk. We got him. So they want him to take a plea. And I mean, I've heard people saying that pleas and stuff like that. So do you think he should take a plea?
For Chicago, hell no. First of all, if it was a slam dunk, he would have taken the plea. If it was a slam dunk, he would have taken the plea. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just say, for instance, I have my client, he's on camera with the murder weapon, with the person's ID in his pocket. You know what I mean? He had the person's car keys. Sir, look, let's talk about it. This ain't the one to go to trial on. I'll tell my client. Now, on this, where like we got witnesses who it was me, it wasn't, he gave me $500,000. Oh, and then he bought me a house, and you know what I'm saying? Like that, it's like, hold on. I was just using that example. But when you have that, and then now all of a sudden, and now the money been dried up. And now all of a sudden, now it was you? No.
Oh, woo, okay. And this is the word of a lawyer, guys. This is a lawyer. No, this is not Sylvia.
So especially, like I said, if his defense, if they have like the right lines of questioning, he has a really good chance.
Okay. They said they love you.
Oh, thanks.
And they said it's a hell no for me. And then the next question is, what is an example of new evidence that the defense could use?
All right, an example of new evidence. If they get some type, let's just say, and this actually happens. It happened in a case of mine several years ago. This guy who was in jail with my client, wrote me a letter and was like, I wanted to testify on his behalf, but the government, they told me if I did, then they would do X, Y, and Z, and I didn't want to hurt my family, so on and so forth. Or let's just say if a witness testified falsely and they're able to get records, things like that, to show that the witness testified falsely, those are things that could help. Or text messages, any of those things. And so, because in his case, I definitely think there'll be lots of different evidence that comes forward. As an attorney, what I would do is I would say, okay, I would set a certain point, whether it's a year, 6 months, or whatever it is. And I'll say, what new evidence do I have? And I'll use all the new evidence I have at that time, and then use that to file a motion versus filing a new motion every time I get a new piece of evidence. Let me get a group of it together, and then I file the motion for new trial.
Wow. Okay. Miss Timoney can be my law teacher any day. She makes me look, listen, and learn. Okay, you got a captivative audience here. You have 236 folks up in here. Okay, guys, the teacher's here. The students are ready to learn. Okay. Well, they said they would love to see Miss Sylvia and Miss Timoney in future shows. Okay. All right. It says Sean ask her, can the news be telling who's testifying against him? Isn't that some kind of a law?
No, I mean, yes, the news can, because it's public information. The news can say whatever. If this person testified, if that person testified, they can give their recaps, all that good stuff.
Okay. Now, AB says, did you talk about the letter the witness apologized? And remember the letter you and I talked about when you were in a line?
Yes.
The young lady, yeah.
So Sylvia and I talked about this at court, but not on here. No, that's something that I would use in my motion for new trial based on new evidence. Like I said, I would literally collect whatever I had, and when whatever deadline I have, once I got that deadline, I would file based on whatever I have.
But so that could be okay to use on this appeal part now, or do you
I would use that in my motion for new trial based on new evidence.
Okay. All right. Keyword said she would do. Okay. The next one says, what about Mr. Kelly signing his masters or something to Greenberg? Is that unethical?
So I don't know if he signed his masters or which set of masters, because there was talk about that at sentencing, about, that was his royalties. They were talking about him having a contract, so on and so forth. The question is whether or not he was paying him with his masters. Let's just say R. Kelly says, hey, Greenberg, I don't have the cash, but I do have this song, and I will give you the master's rights to this song for these 2 songs or however much it is. So if that's he's using as payment, yes. But if he's doing it as them having a business deal, no, that's not okay.
Okay. All right. The next question says here, can you explain why the prosecutors won't put the parents on the stand, even after one of the daughters said the parents made her do this, told her what to do?
So no, the prosecutors, you have to understand, the government is not going to produce any evidence that does not fit their story. I don't care if it's R. Kelly or Jim Bob down the street. They're not going to put on a witness who does not support their theory of the case. Putting the parents on goes completely against their theory of the case, and it raises more questions than it answers.
So that's why they wouldn't come.
That's why they would not call the parents, because it turns the case upside down.
But I do have a question. Hold on. I have one question. There's petition, because some folks say petition don't work and all that. Do petition work? Or if it does, what do we need to do to get it to work? Like the petition they have out there for the parents. So how would that come about, and how can we make it work?
Okay, so petitions work in certain situations. In this type of situation, what would have to happen is because the person who's going to make the decision to charge is the U.S. attorney over that district. That's the person who's going to make that decision. So that's who the petition needs to be directed towards. Hi, person, whoever you are, this happened. We believe that these other criminals should be charged. And so you have to direct it to that person to say, hey, we are these people and we are outraged and we are taxpayers and so on and so forth. We want
But
results.
what's a good number? What's a good number to get their attention?
You know what? I don't know because I just have, again, I don't believe they're going to charge him. I really don't on any level. 1 second. I have to get my charger.
I told you guys she's the bomb. Told y'all. Told y'all she was the bomb.
Okay, sorry. I have to bring my charger here. But yeah, so I don't think they're going to charge him. Like I think it would I mean it would have to be tons of people, like over 100,000 people asking for them to be charged. One, and this is another issue that may come, is that they may say, okay, well, we can't charge them in this jurisdiction. So let's just say, because they charged them in New York, right, with the RICO, but so many other things didn't happen in New York. So let's just say with Azrael Parents, I think she's from Florida. Thank you. I think she's from Florida. So then there's a jurisdictional issue. Like, okay, they can't charge the parents in New York. The prosecutors in New York can't charge the parents in New York because the actions didn't happen there, right? So then it comes with that issue. So I think even if there's massive calls for prosecution, there's the DOJ, Department of Justice, is going to say, our hands are tied, the logistics of it, we can't make this happen for all these reasons that they're going to make up.
So can you contact a congressperson then? Because there's somebody who's having letters to go out to the congressperson in regarding to something like this.
Yeah, you can, but it's not going to go anywhere because I think a Congress member is going to definitely probably be too afraid to speak out about it because just R. Kelly being attached to it, period.
Yeah. Okay, there's another, it says here, why are the accusers that was on TV interviews and award shows able to be Jane Doe's?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys were on TV. Why do you want to be a Jane Doe? Like,
because they want to make money and they don't want their names messed up. That's what it is.
It's the dumbest thing ever. Like, you're on TV talking about this. Why is it that all of a sudden you're so fearful and you don't want to be talked about and don't want your name out? That's insane. Plus, your name is out anyway because people were actually at the trial. So it's not that your name isn't out. It's just like it's not as easy to find. Yeah. No, it was completely a waste of time to make them Jane Does.
How can the prosecutor be part of the jury team?
What do you mean the jury team? I don't even know what you mean.
Some people thinking some of those people were employees of the. That's why they didn't want the jurors to know who the jurors were and things like that. So.
Oh, okay. So now, even if they were employees on voir dire or voir dire, jury selection, you get to ask them questions. Can you be unbiased? Can you be fair? And they're going to say yes, 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 and yes, and yes, and yes. So if his team felt like someone who was employed by their office couldn't have been impartial, then their job was to strike them from the jury panel. And let's say they ran out of strikes. Then even on appeal, that's the issue. Well, hey, we want to strike this juror, but we were out of strikes, and the judge won't give us another one. And now we feel like this juror was biased.
Wow. Okay, here's another one. It says, my daughter just graduated from Howard University. She got her degree in criminology, and she will be going to law school soon. Ask her, can she mentor her?
That might be possible. I think that one thing, in like my best advice for anyone going to law school is prepare not to sleep. Like for the first year, you're not going to sleep. Sleep is a luxury.
Okay. Next one said, Sylvia, did you guys catch Lizette lying when she said she was 17 in 1995 to 2000? She dated R. Kelly, but after her sentencing, she said she's 45 today. Do the math.
So that was brought up a lot. And I'm just like, whoa. So I think like when the victim impact statements, they happened, it is what it is. They have no technical bearing on the case. I get that. I think that like I said, with all of these ladies, they wanted to not be Jane, that they wanted to, like, say, have a light and be Jane Doe's and all of that, then they shouldn't have been on TV and so on and so forth. With them lying about their ages, because that came out with several of them, I think that karma is definitely coming for them.
Definitely. Question. Sean says, can they deny his appeal?
Yeah.
They accepted it.
No, okay, so it's two parts. You file the notice of appeal. You can't deny the notice of appeal. It's filed. Yeah. That's a statutory right. And so then the appeal decision, it can be denied or affirmed, or it can be reversed and vacated. So yeah.
And if it does, they have a chance to go above to the next court?
The next court is the Supreme Court.
Okay. And how long does it take?
That can take a while, because you have to file for the appeal to the Supreme Court, and then from there, the Supreme Court has to say whether or not they're going to hear the case. If they say we're not going to hear the case, then his conviction just stands.
Okay. All right. Why didn't North District of Illinois bring the RICO and racketeering?
So almost the way they did the RICO case, almost any district could have brought it. I believe that they intentionally did it in New York because in New York, they have more experience with doing RICO cases in New York versus in other districts. Because in New York, they use the RICO statutes for gangs and so on and so forth. So you have a higher likelihood of having a prosecutor who has experience trying RICO cases in New York versus anywhere else.
But the thing is, with RICO, I mean, it didn't even fit for him. So how were they able to get by that? I don't get it.
No, I definitely agree. And this is something we talked about before we got on. So in the law, we have this saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. Like, you can indict someone on anything. That doesn't mean that the case is actually good. So they could have indicted him for, having sex with a goat 20 years ago. It could have never happened, but prosecutors can indict on damn near anything. So questioning the indictment you can do that. Let's talk about that on appeal. But at this point, he's charged and you have to fight the case. But no, I think any district could have done it. They just did it in New York because those prosecutors have more experience.
And my thing is, how did they get a conviction? I don't get it. How?
His lawyers didn't lawyer right. They didn't lawyer right. They didn't, because they had so much to work with. And like I said, the trial team, that is just like essential, like to have a great team. So my trial partner, who I go to trial with a lot, I say, this is the case. He says, okay, cool. We don't have to talk about who's going to do what. He already knows what his job is. He does all the motions. He responds to the motions. He does, he may do like the jury instruction, stuff like that. And I've had cases where like motions were intense. So he does the research. He does all of that. My job is solely the trial. Mm-hmm. So before trial, he's up all night doing the motions, however months that's going on. When it's time for trial, he's in the chair next to me, chilling, taking notes. I'm doing everything. So we know what our rhythm is and we know what needs to be done. There is no back and forth about who's going to do what, none of that, because we work well together. His lawyers didn't. They didn't.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Um. Okay. Why were they able to charge him with the Mann Act on Geronda when she never traveled across the state line?
I think what they were alleging, I think she made a statement about going somewhere with him one time. I'm not sure the details, but because I was
Mm-mm.
watching something else that she said about like when she was with him. Let me just say, Geronda was a horrible witness. She was a horrible witness, and they could have came at the gate and attacked her. And the fact that they didn't was so disappointing because it set like the tone of the trial. Like opening statements set the tone. Uh,
Yeah.
Nicole's
Are
were
you
not, yeah, there were like lots of objections. But then, okay, let's just say we have a bad morning and we just have this one witness. Like that was the time to set the tone. And they said it, and it wasn't a good one because in questioning her, like I said, there were so many things that could have been asked. And even if they didn't take, let's just say they didn't take her across state lines, they should have asked that. They should have asked that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Somebody asked. Somebody asked a question. I knew that somebody's going to ask this. It says, "Can we hire her? Can she be hired to work with Bongine?"
So let me just say, um, I would only do it if I could bring my trial partner with me. Like you just
Yeah.
can't have me. You have to have my trial partner because
Yeah.
I trust his work. I trust his work. I trust his research. The government can file 10 motions in the, like today. He gonna have them responded to with details the next day. I trust his work. I can't go to trial with someone and I don't trust their work.
Okay. Here's I'm gonna go with the color line. Someone made a comment that if you're gonna go to trial, you need to have a white male attorney.
No, not in this situation. That's so it's politics. I get that. No. So in his case, in the New York case, and in the Chicago case,
Mm-hmm.
no matter if they were the lead attorney or not, a Black woman should have been on his trial team. That's it.
Yes.
Period. Point blank. Not even, like I said, they didn't have to be the lead attorney. But because what you don't want is for, let's just say, you have a witness and I know I'm going to attack this witness. I don't want it to be, and you're attacking their credibility. I don't like let's just say with Nicole. I don't want it to be a white woman attacking a Black woman's credibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because if not, then the jury's like, okay, this lady's a bitch. You know what I mean? She's attacking this poor Black girl, so on and so forth. Versus you can be a Black woman and ask the same questions in a different tone, and it's not seen as attacking the witness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Totally, it's two totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
And because so many of the witnesses in the case were female, you want a female attorney asking certain questions. Like you don't want a male lawyer asking a woman sex questions, especially if you're trying to attack her credibility or go like into details about what did or did not happen. You don't want this big man asking her these questions because the witness is going to be apprehensive. You want a woman asking those questions. One, because the woman can relate because we're both women. So it's not necessarily an attack. It's just, hey, I'm asking these questions and I'm going to get what I want out of it. I'm just asking in a different way.
Yeah, because you remember the whole prosecution team was all women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you need a woman on the team. That's just what it is. And then like just what we talked about earlier about the agent, the white agent talking about Debosky and the guy sending they were sending him money and the agent was saying he thought it was them sending money for ammunition. Well, you aren't within this cultural concept or this context, so you don't know. So you need someone who's also within this same cultural context on your team. Why are you hiring people for you, a black man, who and your witnesses and your victims are black, and you have no one black on your team who looks like them and who can relate? Because me as a woman and a man is up here asking me stuff about sex, which is super personal and some weird shit I might have done with this man, I'm not going to want to tell him that. I'm not going to feel comfortable with that. And I'm going to be very apprehensive, and the jury's going to be able to determine that. Versus it's a woman, and we're talking about sex, and we're talking about relationships, and so on and so forth. Like, even if, like, as a woman, I could ask her, like, I could say, hey, we've all done stupid things for men, right? We've all done things we regret with a man, right? All those things aren't pretty, right? A man can ask you that. You see what I'm saying? It's
different. It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay. Says, why was the judge biased and allowing? I think we answered that question already, D. Why was the judge biased and didn't allow the defense to properly bring up certain defense?
Yeah, prosecutor on the bench.
Prosecutor on the bench. She says, damn, she's good.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's see. This is some excellent stuff. Okay. Guys, you have any more questions? Okay. It says here, I have never seen an individual getting a RICO. It's usually a group on a RICO. Also, the Mann Act, they really were grabbing. I haven't heard any state that would use it who would use it in a long time.
So on the RICO, they were definitely reaching. I believe that they knew that they couldn't charge the individual counts, which is why they did it as a RICO. If they had done these as individual counts, they wouldn't have won. They would have had so many other different issues. But by charging it as a RICO, they were able to bring so many things in from the case, things that happened, so long ago. They were able to bring those things in under the RICO. Now, as far as the Mann Act, states can't use it because it's not a state issue; it's a federal one. But I think that one thing is that, and I caught this in one of the documents. It was how they did it was really, really weird. It was part of the RICO, I think, and they were saying, "Oh, he had sex with this person, and the age of consent under this state's law or something was 17 at the time, something," but it didn't match what like the facts, and it was like another stretch. They definitely stretched a lot to get the charge, to make it applicable to him, and that's another reason why, like, I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen on the appeal.
Yeah. It says here, somebody else is asking you about it. It says, ask her how much she charged to take the case. I got a little money.
It's a little pricey. It's pricey.
Okay. Someone said this is great. Says black girl magic to me. Timoney, you are the bomb.
Thank you.
This is great. Okay. Guys, I can't see too well because I keep asking to make it capital. So if I'm missing your questions, I apologize because this thing is little. Let's see. I was trying to catch some more. If you have a question, could you make it capital letters and so I can see it? Oh, they want to know what's your YouTube channel and your other social media.
Oh, everything is my name, Temani Adams.
Everything is Temani Adams. And she's a TikTok sensation, y'all.
And it just happened 2 days ago. Like, literally, it just happened.
Yeah. She got over 90,000 views on her last video.
In 3 days.
In 3 days. Okay, question is, do you think he needs a PR? Why?
So I think that he does need PR. I think it's just unfortunate because I like just knowing like the things that have happened over time. He's definitely been taken advantage of a lot, and he just has not had the right team in place.
Mhm.
PR definitely could be great because it what it does is combat the story that is coming out in the mainstream media in the news. So that's one thing for PR. And then what happens is if you have an effective PR campaign, what that does is, hey, it will more show, okay, what actually happened, like what they're saying happened. And let's say, okay, and this is the narrative that the government is giving, but hey, this is our narrative. And let's bring out some of these other facts that happened that have not been talked about.
Wow. This lady coaching says it's official. We're adopting you as our sister. Timothy Adams, you are now part of the infamous Sylvia family.
Oh, thank you.
um, okay. Question says, do you mind me asking where did you go to law school?
I went to law school at South Texas College of Law. It's in Houston. I think now it's called South Texas College of Law in Houston. So, and I'll tell you, I chose that school because that's where you go if you want to be a trial lawyer. So it's number one in the country for what we call advocacy, which is trial law.
Okay. All right. Okay, here's a question. I think Minnie asked this question earlier and I missed it. It says, why did they allow one lady to speak at sentencing when she wasn't even part of the trial? Also, when the fiance's letter was read, why the judge still considered her a victim when she says she's not?
Yeah, so the victim impact statements, they have no bearing on the actual case. So it's like if you were a victim and you want to speak, you can, because it has no bearing on the case because the case is over. So the judge listing saying that Jocelyn is a victim, even though she says she's not, if the judge feels that way, that just kind of shows her position and how she feels that she is a victim and just doesn't know it because that's the narrative that's being pushed.
But she's 27 years old. You would know if you're a victim.
Yeah.
She said her name is Timony as well, also.
Oh,
But she spelled hers different from yours.
yeah, I see. How cute.
Mm. Okay, let's see. Ask her about them charging him with a non existent law in California.
I think that's the one I was talking about. They were trying to refer back to it in the RICO, and it was just really
Yeah.
weird to me. I'm like, why are they bringing this up? That's what I was talking about. Like, why are they even bringing this up? But that just goes to show, like, with them charging the case, they had to get creative. They definitely had to get creative.
It says, were any of the ladies emancipated from their parents?
No, not that I'm aware of. And it's insane because and I think this is why so many people are outraged because of the involvement of the parents. Not only that, of the complacency of the parents. I think even when I was watching the second part of the documentary, and they were talking, they're like 16 and 17, and they're out of town with R. Kelly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know where at 16 and 17, but at home. So I think that's part of like the public outcry is like how like the parents had to have been involved at some point because how did this happen? So I think from the government's point is, yeah, this may have been bad parenting for some of them, but it wasn't criminal. And then for some of them, it kind of was criminal.
But see, I know when we were young and even with now, your kid is not in school. That becomes truancy, doesn't it?
Correct.
It becomes, I mean, you're gone with Azriel. She was gone from April all the way to June. She's supposed to be in school. Why was she not in school? And then in my mindset as a man, I would think, hey, she's grown. She's not in school. So yeah, if she says she's 18, she's 18. I would believe it because she's not in school.
Yeah, so I think what was happening, because I think one of, I guess, his assistants or something, they were testifying about I think she was doing like homeschooling or something, because they were talking about her being on the bus and she had to stay on the bus to finish her
But that was
work.
in September. That was in September when she was going back to school, remember? But the first from April to June, there was no school.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it's just, the facts are just insane. And I think, like I said, that's where like a lot of the outcry comes from, because it's like, well, why aren't these parents being held accountable in some aspect?
Hmm. And other people that work with him, if that's the case, what about them?
Yeah,
Because
I mean, I don't even, when I think about the people that work with him, see, this is the thing. It's, they aren't called, they're not going to call witnesses that do not fit their narrative. It's not going to happen. So you may have other witnesses who have information, but that information doesn't go with the narrative that they have. And so people think in terms of stories. So you have to keep witnesses that go with your story.
hmm hmm
If this witness is going to come in and say something, well, yeah, I saw this Azrael once in, let's say, August, and you know, they were having wild sex. And then the witness also says, but yeah, he treated her like a princess. I saw her. She was asking him for sex. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't fit their narrative. So you
hmm
have to select your witnesses carefully. Because if you get a witness that doesn't fit your narrative, it messes up your whole case.
Because even Geronda's sister could have been a witness. You had the friend that was at the party that was invited by Bubba. You heard the conversation when they said Bubba got payment from Geronda. So it's like, what happened?
So I always, if the government ain't gonna call them, don't worry, I'm gonna call them. Like, I'm gonna get my subpoenas out. You know what I mean? So even if I don't actually call the witness, I'm gonna subpoena them. And the first thing, if it's an antsy witness who doesn't want to testify because they're kind of shaky themselves, the first thing they're gonna do is call the government. It's like, oh my gosh, I got this subpoena. Do I have to come? And it's like, yes, you do. So then it makes the government and say, like, oh my gosh, what is their angle? Because they're not like, they're subpoenaing this witness. I may have no intentions of actually calling this witness to the stand, but
Mm.
let me subpoena them and put them on my witness list. Because just
But
because
okay,
on a
is it
witness list,
okay if the government has witness subpoena? That means the defense can ask those witness to come in.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
you both
okay,
can subpoena them.
okay, okay, okay. I just thought it was like, okay, I got you. But thank you, Timoney. It's 9:15, and I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
Anybody has any burning last question you want to ask her? Any burning last question? Because I'm very conscious of people time. I know she's willing to stay forever and ever and ever with us, but okay. It says, what does Timoney think about Susan Logan's involvement? Remember, she never came. They subpoenaed her, but she never
Yeah.
came.
So I think one, as far as a lawyer, she was a complete money grab. She saw money, and that's what it was. I don't know if this applies, if this is the law in Illinois or not, but in Texas, when there is a child sex crime, and a lot of the women were alleging they were underage,
Mhm.
when there's a child sex crime under certain statutes, you have a duty to tell the authorities. You have a legal duty to tell the authorities. I don't know if they have it in Chicago or Illinois, but if they did, that definitely would be an issue, and I could see why she didn't come to court.
But I know in Georgia they have it here. It's a duty. Even a different some people are mandated. I was a mandated person because I had kids um take care of individuals with disabilities. So I'm still mandated. Licensed by the state that if I see any kind of abuse, I have to report it.
Exactly. So even, let's just say, if she comes, I don't know if she's still a practicing attorney or not, but even if she would have came, it would not have helped her in any way. It probably would have, like, sank her personally and professionally. It would not have helped her. She would have looked horrible.
Mm. Mm. Anybody have any question? Last burning question. This is it. But I do have a question in regarding defamation. There are a couple of bloggers on YouTube who's just spreading false rumors about individual. How do we Can we do a federal charge on that type of stuff since it's going across state line? I just want to know.
So defamation is a civil issue. So if you want to sue someone for defamation, you definitely can.
Can it be federal or has it got to be 75,000 and over, right?
Yep.
Okay. Can
Now,
I get a free lawyer for that too?
federally, yeah. In the state of Georgia, no. So it would have to be a federal case.
Okay, got you. Well, everyone is saying thank you so much. I truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Miss Timoney and Infamous Sylvia, for the very informative interview. I've learned a lot. They say thank you. They saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a bunch of thank yous here for you. So, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. So I will definitely be calling. You have my number.
All right. You guys are very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. One, I think you guys are awesome for even like seeking out to know the truth, not even about the R. Kelly case, but just to know the truth, like about what your rights are as a person when dealing with the police and the justice system. I think that's very important for everyone.
Yeah. So, what are some tips you want to give to us before you close out?
My number one tip is one, always record because you need your own evidence. As we know, the police lie, and you don't want to be in a situation where it's your word against theirs because they're going to believe them. If you are a smoker, I definitely don't recommend ever smoking in your car. That police always use that as probable cause to search. Oh, I smelled the strong odor of freshly burnt marijuana. And so I had probable cause to search. That is exactly how affidavits read. And most importantly, the justice system in America is not made for you if you are brown. I always say if you are brown and you are poor in America, you are committing a crime in that itself. So that's it.
Great. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No
Have a
problem. Anytime.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye bye. All right, guys. Yay. It was awesome interview. We appreciate her. But guys, I gotta go because it is almost 10 o'clock. I know we could go on and on and on and on, but definitely she will be back with us. We try to tend to stay away from the actual case itself, but we wanted to give you guys a little bit of nuggets. And I have been talking to her and at the courthouse and things like that. And she's awesome. She's awesome. Now you see what I'm talking about? See why I love her? Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for the time, you guys. We kept over 200 something people throughout this whole interview. Please share this interview, like, share, and we will continue. I will continue bringing you things like this going forward. And don't forget, I am going to the trial. I will be there. And I will bring as much information to you guys as possible. And I'm trying to get it where I'll have the transcript right after the actual, get it the day after. So those who wants to participate in it, you know how we do it over here. You know how we do it. And don't let anybody deter you from what we do over here. Okay. Because we're going to bring you some real stuff, because what channel have bought so many attorneys? I have been doing that here. So, and the transcript always come through here. Don't let them think they got it from me. Most of them got it from me. But anyway, I see you guys later. Love you guys. Bye.